Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 19. In this episode, we're going to be talking about CRMs, why a CRM is important for your membership website. I've got some interesting things to say. We're going to really describe what a CRM is, what the different flavors are. I think there's a lot of confusion about precisely what a CRM is. I think it's really important that you have one for your membership website, especially when it starts growing. There's a lot of factors in keeping a membership website up and running. I've got my great co-host here, Spence. So, Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. It's Spencer Foreman, and you can find me at spencerforeman.com or WP-Launchify.com. I also author the Launch Flows plugin. And my new initiative this year is definitely, we have a resurgence after the snow globe has been shaken up this year of teaching freelancers who are either from offshore or are retiring or being retired out of their corporate jobs how to use WordPress to successfully build a business that's a recurring revenue for themselves, which is why we have this membership show as well.
That's great. So, like I say, we're going to be talking about what I think the important factors that you need to understand to make some judgment call about what could be the best CRM solution for you, what the difference is between different kind of tastes of CRMs are. I think we got a lot of knowledge to help you. Before we go into the main part of the show, I've got a couple of key messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, folks. Just want to point out, if you want to join us live, we do this show at around 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, AM. And if you've got any questions or you just want to join the conversation, please feel free to join us. We always seem to have some regulars. We love more people to join us, like Tina. Another thing I would like to point out is if you're looking to host your membership website on WordPress, why don't you come over to WP-Tonic? We've got great hosting that's really fast. Plus, we provide everything you need to run a membership website on WordPress, and we make it super easy for you. So if that's interesting, go over to WP-Tonic. So I've got some did a real dive on this, Spencer, and I can really understand why a lot of people are really confused. I hope this show, the main thing I want from this show is to give some clarity and give some real advice, because I think if somebody done a dive about this on YouTube and they spend a couple of hours or they just did some general research, I think they're just going to be even more confused, to be quite truthful about it. Now, what I see, and this is just the way I clarify it, Spencer,
right,
is that I really see there's two real buckets that I place all these CRM solutions in. One I think is ideal for WordPress. The other I wouldn't advise a WordPress solution for. The way I put these in these buckets is there are certain CRMs, WordPress focused, a WordPress plugin solution, and then there's a SaaS solution that are around marketing automation. They are about sending emails mostly. And when your student, your possible new student enters your website, you can either send them a series of email to get them to look at signing up for your membership course, or whatever outreach that you want through lead magnets. They are marketing focus, and I think the fantastic news in the WordPress space, Spencer, is that we got some great solutions that we didn't have a couple of years ago that can do that are really effective, saves you a lot of money, as good as the SaaS solutions, and I think it's really exciting. The other bucket is organization keeping who has signed up for your course, who is a member. Does the CRM link into your financial package, bookkeeping, just the managing a large membership website? And that's what we want for the people that are listening to us, Spencer, is to build a successful membership business. So when you have hundreds, maybe thousands of members, you need a CRM to know who signed up, information. I don't think you would be, and this is just my opinion, Spencer, I don't think you want to use a WordPress plugin to manage and to communicate with your bookkeeping system. I think you'd be better off looking at a SaaS solution. But I think the great news is, by utilizing something like WP Fusion, that you can have your marketing CRM plugin and it can effectively communicate with your membership CRM that links in to your bookkeeping programs. So that's how I've rationalized it, Spencer. He's grinning at me, folks. I don't know if that means he thinks I'm totally...
It's a rare thing on this show or otherwise, after 17 years of knowing you or whatever it's been, that I allow you that much space to unpack your suitcase, sit down, you had a bourbon, you smoked a cigar, you took a nap, you had a shower, you went to the gym, you took a swim, you came back, you had lunch. I just sat here listening to that whole thing.
Yeah, but for me, I thought that was quite focused, because I can normally ramble much more effectively. But I thought
never in the history of any show we've done together has that happened. Okay,
yeah.
I wanted to give you that breathing room because, first of all, it's part of my 2023, listen before I speak thing. What's very difficult for me as an entrepreneur, and those who listen to the show or otherwise know me, is that what I wear as my badge of honor is two things. Number one, I like to think of myself like the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes story. I tell it like I see it. You cannot get me to tell a lie. You cannot get me to say anything that I would not want to stand up in court and defend. And for those people like our friend Sally in the past, there have been people who have told me something that I didn't agree with publicly that later I said she was right or he was right, and that's fine. So we're going to talk like that here, which is why I wanted you to unpack that. Number two, though, is the thing that is different in WordPress this year that I am leading the charge, carrying the flag on. Most everyone can put 100% ownership and control, I would say with two small exceptions, into the box of WordPress. So what does that mean? You made some comments there about SaaS and so forth, and you made some comments which were valid, but I'm going to sum this all up and I'm going to tell it exactly like it is without reference to the particular things, so that somebody can understand what's this whole thing about and what does that mean in terms of SaaS services. We have arrived in 2023 where WordPress has the features that any business needs, whether it's a solopreneur all the way up to an enterprise, to connect essentially any type of business that includes membership, marketing automation, e-commerce, sales funnels, e-learning, affiliates, everything that previously used to need a SaaS service or a SaaS this or SaaS that. The only component that was relevant that couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't have been done in WordPress was always the CRM. So now, if you think of WordPress as the box, let's use a metaphor of the planet WordPress, that is where the business can be owned, controlled, operated, never taken away from a customer, which is where I started this whole thing 17 years ago, coming from an experience with a SaaS freemium host that cut off all 12,500 customers from their livelihood. But the CRM is either a moon orbiting planet WordPress, or in one or two cases, you can use a special type of a plugin. And we're going to talk about that here because I want to take those items and just sum them back up in a sort of easier to consume format. A CRM, a customer relationships manager or relationship manager, is something that is different than the normal user interactions on WordPress. It's essentially the heart of your email communication and your logic for automation about what relationships you have with a person and what relationships they have with the stuff in your box. Have they bought this, seen this, clicked this, owned this, progressed on this? If you don't use a CRM internally as a plugin or externally as a SaaS, you have no sense where the customer is on their journey through your sales funnel, through your products, through your services, through your relationship. But when you have it, magic happens. And that's what these big SaaS companies have been selling forever. When you went to a Salesforce, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, the old, the goats of the industry, they charge a fortune and try to put CMS stuff inside of their CRM. Now it's the other way around. You have 90% of stuff owned and control. You connect to CRM for various things. Now you can control and understand exactly what someone's doing. So I know Jonathan lives in Reno and he likes to ski, and Spence is in Chicago and he likes yellow and eats chocolate. I can keep track of that so that the website and the emails and the sales products and everything I offer to somebody, as well as knowing what they did, are within my ability to automate and make my customers happier and me make more money. That's it. Now we can talk about some of the features, because today there was a conversation before the show. Some of the CRMs do different things entirely. Like you referenced, you recommend something, which makes no sense unless we talk about the specific. Keeping track of customers in Xero or QuickBooks, where should that happen in the chain? Well, we need to talk about which type of CRM you have, because some of the CRMs we talk about are for marketing. Yeah. Some of them are for sales, and some of them are for just general stuff.
And I just don't think it. I think this is only my perspective here. This is how I put. You got almost three buckets. You got these very large, semi-large corporate CRMs like Salesforce. You're never going to use. None of the people that watch this video or listen to the podcast should consider Salesforce. You know, it's ridiculous. No, I'm not.
Stop. Emperor's New Clothes Kid. Not true. Maybe on your side of the table, but on my side of the table, 50% or more of my consulting clients are HubSpot, Salesforce, and Infusionsoft. And they have come to recognize on their own through WP Fusion or otherwise, they need to connect the world that they've got on those CRMs to WordPress. All of my high ticket clients are coming from those universes. So when I teach freelancers, where are the fish at? Where do you want to start fishing? You start fishing in the worlds of ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, Infusionsoft, and so forth.
I was talking about my perspective, the type of clientele that I'm dealing with. So fair enough.
The new membership economy is connecting those customers of enterprise to WordPress.
Yeah, sure. So, but what I was going to say was that take the pill. What I was going to say was that in the SaaS world, there's different flavors. Just so you know, you've got systems like ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit. They are in my mind fundamentally different to something like Monday CRM or Pipeline CRM or Agile CRM. There is some overlap, but in my mind, they're aimed at different types and have different strengths and different flavors. You know what? I know there's a lot of people that use ActiveCampaign as a kind of organization kind of CRM, but I see its real strength is marketing email and marketing automation, and to some extent ConvertKit. So what I'm trying to point out is that I don't think there's one overall CRM that's good at everything. I think, but what could be a great solution, and I know that your attitude differs because of your type of clientele, but the people that I work with, what I think is a great solution is when it comes to the email marketing automation solution. I think there's a couple really fantastic WordPress solutions available. But when it comes to a CRM where you're putting all the information about the customer and wanting to link it to your financial bookkeeping solution, I think something like Zolo CRM could be something.
Can we pause on this? Because let's get this one off the table. This is something that I understand what you're saying, but the way you're saying it and I'm hearing it, I don't think is conveying what you're intending. So let me make this clear. You have a WordPress site. You're going to take money for something. Let's assume in this conversation, it's WooCommerce is the transactional engine. Certainly there's other methods of taking money, but even if it's another method, the point is customer gives you money on WordPress. One of those plugins like WooCommerce and another thing could even be like a Fluent CRM sends money through a gateway. Let's say it's Stripe. Then the gateway goes on to your bank. Let's say it's Capital One. And then that detail's available. Now you've got a bookkeeper or an accountant who needs to know for tax purposes. Now, I am a licensed and practicing attorney. I am not a CPA, but I have an understanding of bookkeeping because one of my major clients is a bookkeeping type of organization. The things that one needs for tax purposes have absolutely no need at the level of your WordPress site, your WooCommerce site, and in most cases, not even at the gateway. The only thing that matters for tax purposes is like when the money hits your bank. So when enterprises ask me, where should we connect our bookkeeper? Where should that data be as a single source of truth? For bookkeepers don't care about customer relationship management. They only care about gross income, expenses, cost of goods sold, things that are boring. Connect your Xero or your QuickBooks at the bank. That's it. Done. Now, if you need a little more data, connect one step up to the gateway. Done. There is never a situation I have seen in 17 years where a bookkeeper or the CPA needs to connect at WooCommerce or the WordPress level or anything at the membership level, because that data is transient in nature. It's coming and going. The only thing the IRS cares about is the money. So when we get that off the table, guess what? Everything is super clear. The things we're talking about here today as CRMs have to do with the relationships with the customers. It has nothing to do with accounting or bookkeeping. That is a tangibly different thing, and it's static in nature. Now, if we get that out of the way, now all the rest of it to me makes much more sense, because that's just like a red herring, but it's a question that I get asked almost every time, because you know what customers think, especially Salesforce? They think Salesforce is going to be my magical single stop shop for everything under the sun. And I go, no, it will not, because Salesforce will tell you the customer and what they bought and if they have an active subscription, but your bookkeeper could care less, and you're not doing your books in Salesforce. So they just need to be told.
Yeah, I see where you're coming. I kind of disagree with you slightly, but it's not. It's just debatable. I just think when it comes to some of these, the WordPress and also some of these solutions, they're great for marketing automation. But if you've got hundreds, thousands of students, I don't think they're designed to be effective platforms. And I think thinking there's one Swiss Army knife CRM that can do the organization part, plus the marketing email automation part, I just don't think it's there. But I don't know if you actually disagree with me there or you differ. It's all great.
You and I don't fundamentally disagree. You're saying it is disagree. I'm thinking this is a recipe, and I will put it like this. If you were a solopreneur and you wanted a simple thing, maybe you feel more comfortable just showing your bookkeeper your WooCommerce report or something. I mean, that's up to you. But I've never found that to be true, even for solopreneurs, simply because I know what comes out of WooCommerce, and all that data is besides the point, because the IRS, I'm not an IRS expert, the IRS does not need that data. There is no number or code in your tax forms as an individual, an LLC or otherwise, to say like all the details of a WooCommerce subscription. It's just what's your difference between gross income, cost of goods sold, expenses. That's it. So,
well, I think just to finish off the first half of the show, Spencer, I think that's also a slight divergence in our views, is that you're very committed that WooCommerce should be an essential element of your membership WordPress experience. You know, have a learning management system and highly integrate it with WooCommerce, and WooCommerce to be that central spoke where you can add all the other Lego elements that you discuss in your philosophy. I think that's where,
but there's like a new thing called yes, but. Okay, yes, but that is not the limitation that would be required under what I teach people. I say, for a single source of truth, if you're going to do things like donations, pay me now, memberships, all this stuff, try, if at all possible, to put them through that WooCommerce thing. Because then for you, for marketing, for tracking the user's journey, you have all that data. But there will be instances, for example, that people will use a third-party situation, maybe like an AppSumo sale, or maybe a joint venture thing, or maybe they're getting income from Quora. I don't know. Those pieces of data. Now, take my logic here. If you have a business that's an LLC or a solopreneur or whatever, if you take that revenue, where's it going to go? It's going to go to your bank account, the same bank account that the WordPress, WooCommerce, everything else was. So when you talk to your bookkeeper and they say, hey, John, how much money did you make this year? I got to know. If you send them upstream to WooCommerce, but you made a bunch of income from 2, 3, 4 other side hustles, they're still not getting all the data. They want to know where everything ends up. And the final destination is always the bank account. Hopefully you have a separate bank account for all your businesses. That is why my logic starts and ends with, sure, I recommend what to use in the WooCommerce WordPress side of things. But even there, sometimes we'll do a form that takes money or some weird thing. That's why the thing to judge your business on for accounting and bookkeeping should be at the bank account. But we don't have to belabor the point. I just want to say, none of that is relevant to a CRM, because bookkeeping and keeping track of funding is not really a CRM task.
Yeah, I think I've given the wrong impression here. I only mentioned the bookkeeping as part of how I see these two buckets of functionality when it comes to a CRM. But I agree with you. It's just an add-on part of it. I think I kind of labored the financial part probably it's actually a little bit deeper. I see that there are CRMs that are really focused about marketing automation, and there's CRMs that are around, maybe I should have utilized sales orientated.
Yes. Now let's use that. Let's take your concept and break it out. This is where I think you and I would agree. Marketing automation, right? That's a thing. That's what WP Fusion and all the rest of the stuff I'm just referring to does. Marketing automation is relationships with customers that happen automatically based upon you make a premise and you set up triggers that do actions. You don't have to touch it. On the other side is customer support / high ticket selling. Hey, let's talk about that $10,000 thing I'm going to do with you because you want to talk to a real human being, and I would like to take notes inside of my CRM in one spot. Now, those are the same result, is that you're trying to get more money, but the marketing automation thing happens without me having to do work. And the high ticket selling or the deal flow or the notes about whatever, that happens. And those oftentimes live in the same product, but those are notoriously the two types of customers who use CRMs. One is for pure automation that nobody touches it. And the other is a boiler room of like, get the doctor on the phone, let's sell them that stock. Okay. That's where I think I'm agreeing with you. I just don't agree with the like bookkeepers need access to the CRM.
Yeah, I don't think I explained myself because I don't either. But I do think that customers, clientele that listening, if you've got a large membership site, you're going to be wanting your CRM to some extent to communicate. But you disagree there a little bit. So, but I think so. What I would like you to get, listeners or viewers, from this initial discussion before we go into WordPress CRM solutions in the second half, is that there's different flavors of CRMs. And like I say, I think there's definitely two camps. One is the marketing automation one. The other one is the more sales relationship orientated CRM platforms. I think you've got to be aware of that. Because otherwise there's a good chance you're going to end up with a CRM system that doesn't really do what you're really looking for. So I just think you just got to be aware. But this is only my perspective, because I think you got kind of corporate level CRMs, you got these other buckets which I've described. I think it can become very confusing. I hope we haven't, maybe I have caused more confusion in this first half of the show. I think with your help, Spencer, I think we have clarified it a bit. But that's what I wanted people to be aware of from this first half of the show. What do you reckon, Spence?
Yeah, I'd say we should dive in and let's talk about the differences. But the takeaway after all that back and forth with us is simply this. Absolute truth. You are doing yourself a disservice if you do not have a CRM in your WordPress stack, either as an external connected CRM or as an internal plugin, because not understanding who the customers are, and by the way, that takes place, I love this, that takes the place of analytics in many cases. And Rand Fishkin is doing really well with his Spark Toro job. He was on one of our other shows 6 months, a year ago, and I gave him a hard time that I said, Google SEO, blah, 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 blah. And he was really like taken aback, I think, at the time. Like, what are you talking about, you moron? And now he's posted up there that his company's exceeded 7 figures of revenue by completely ignoring SEO and just doing relationship marketing. And I found that really gratifying because a CRM has the relationship in the middle letter. And that's where most businesses today in the world of automation are going to succeed. So you must have a CRM. And then the second thing is make the CRM match the needs and the budget that you have, because there is not one size fits all, but they can all be connected to the WordPress stack through these means we're going to talk about.
All right.
All I got to say about that, Forrest.
That's great. We're going to go for our break. We've got some people that are joining us live. Like I say, please join us around 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday. Be part of the discussion. We're going to go for our break. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Coming back. Hopefully you listened to some of our other great sponsors. I just want to point out we've also got a great Facebook community group page, the Membership Machine Show. Have a look, go to Facebook, join us there, join the group there. We've got a great group of membership entrepreneurs and WordPress experts. If you've got any questions, you can always ask me and Spencer or the community itself. So go and join that. It's a great resource. So let's go into a list of WordPress solutions because, you know, we believe in WordPress.
I believe that WordPress is our hero.
So let's start off. Let's start off with if you're looking at WordPress you're doing a Google search, you're doing a search through YouTube, this is going to come up. And this is Jetpack CRM, part of the Jetpack Swiss Army knife solution. What do you reckon about this one, Spencer?
Well, I got a couple things to say. First of all, I believe this is what came now. Finally, they buried the body, waited till it turned into something else, and they dug it back up. I'm pretty sure this is the Zero BS CRM, which was, giving credit where credit's due, the first CRM to hit the plugin space, as I was mentioning a moment ago, between SaaS or plugins. There are two other ones we'll talk about that are still in the market space, but they've dug up the body, and here it is. And all I'm going to say is, because I promised to be nice today, Zero BS as a CRM and its founders had some huge promise. It was several years ago now. I think it was going back at least 2019. They acquired it, right? It was August 16th was the news that came out, 2019. That might have been 800 years ago in COVID terms. In 100 billion years, I would never recommend anything that's connected through Jetpack. So I could just affirmatively say, I don't care if this thing prints gold bricks and delivers it to your door. I would never recommend anybody use anything with Jetpack ever, because Jetpack is the number one offender of do as we say, not as we do. It does everything that all other developers are prohibited specifically from doing and will get banned from the WordPress community for doing. But they do it, and they do it with impunity like this. I would never, ever trust my data about a customer to anything Jetpack. And by the way, although I was never going to be offered a job at Automatic, you can be sure that my Emperor's New Clothes thing, the kid telling it, applies here. Because after saying that, I'm really, really sure that Matt is not sending me any Christmas invitations.
Well, my perspective of this, basically, you're buying into a kind of Swiss Army knife solution here that does Jetpack. It does a multiple things, listeners and viewers. In my opinion, it doesn't do anything that great, and it doesn't offer enormous value personally. The other thing is, I think it can affect performance of your website to some extent. People would disagree with me there. And the other thing is that this particular CRM, there's just much better on the marketing automation side, which I think should be the focus of this particular show. It doesn't, there's much better WordPress solutions. To me, it's focused on that bucket that I tried not that effectively to explain in the first part of the show, where it's more organization, more set, kind of put it in that bucket of cells in a way. I just wouldn't recommend it. And that's all I've got to say, basically.
Let's wrap that up by saying even Tina was like, Tina knows us both very well, was surprised to see Jetpack on your list. I asked Jonathan not to put this on the list because I would had to say the thing that I said, but I will, just in case this legacy shows up. The reason I would not do anything with Jetpack is because it phones home and it keeps data of yours at its end, which is not what it's supposed to do. But when you're talking about your CRM, for goodness sake, it's the heartbeat of your business. It's all your customers. It's all your stuff. Do you really want to be trusting it to an agency with whom you have no pre-existing trust and has been known for acting less than straightforward about it? This is like talking about the chocolate factory. I mean, there are certain companies with whom I personally ask people to consider who they are having a relationship with. And that's what I'm talking about.
So, Pete, we've got some live people. Tina said, well, I've on the list. The reason, Tina, is that if anybody does a search about best WordPress CRM, and they hit a number of websites that are run by the Chocolate Factory, it's going to probably be on those lists. So I thought we had
the Chocolate Factory, by the way, I saw on Twitter this week, the Chocolate Factory started banning several well-known WordPress outspoken critics from from their community at chocolatefactorybeginner.com. And that was quite interesting because some big names getting banned for just speaking truthfully doesn't indicate a company that feels comfortable with their public persona versus what happens on the back end.
Yeah, sure. On to the next one, Groundhog. Groundhog, actually, I like some elements of Groundhog, especially I call it the waterfall way that it deals with marketing automation. I think it's well established. It's got a great following in the WordPress. I don't think it's the best solution, to be honest, but I think it's credible. I think the only criticism, material criticism, is that it, like some other WordPress solutions that we discussed during this show, Spencer, it wants to be a kind of quasi SaaS stroke, all-embracing. It wants to be really
Framework.
Yeah, framework, kind of SaaS-based, really. And to me, that kind of reduces its value proposition in the total solution to some extent that we describe in this podcast. Is that making sense, Spencer?
I'll say the same thing in a slightly different way. Here's the thing. Adrian, Toby, and his team, I think, have a clear vision of what he wants this business to be. And when I spoke to him about this last, which again, in COVID years, I think it was 2020. It might have been 2019. It was so long ago. But the point was there was a fork. There was a fork, and it must have been after 19 because it was after Zero BS got acquired. He and I spoke for an hour or so because he was somebody I saw every Friday on our show here. And I said, where do you want this to be? Because I have this special position with marketing automation and with the dream of what WordPress as a service will be. And I said, do you feel you can make this a plugin that's a feature of WordPress as part of that stack? And I'm going to just say it. He has a vision that, in my understanding, was to make it a framework, to make it a platform, to make it like an Infusionsoft Active Campaign, but that happens to be a plugin, much like our friend Nathalie Lucer with, Access Ally. And God bless the whole team. I don't think there's anything but good things to say. And if you want to experience it, go check it out. But I am saying, without anything bad about that, that is a different solution than a plugin CRM in my view of it. So treat Groundhog like you would treat going to Active Campaign or HubSpot or something else, because that's, I think, ultimately what it's trying to be, if I'm not misunderstanding it.
Well, on to, I think that was a great summary. On to another one I hadn't heard of, and that's WP-ERP.
Burp.
Yeah, well, be charitable. This is really linked to the first half of the show, folks. This has come on my radar because we work with some schools and colleges, and they've done searches, and they bring it up because they want to save money, and it's around student administrative. This is why I brought this up in the first half, Spencer, because we come from slightly different customer engagement. Because I'm dealing with schools and colleges, and they're trying to save money, or they think it's best, and they do a Google search, and this comes up, and it's supposed to help with the administration of students. And I say, no, don't do it. I understand. You'd be better off. WordPress isn't the best solution for that. But if you're looking for a great solution when it comes to the marketing automation, it does have some great solutions. And when people do a Google search from a school, college, education, this will come up, Spencer, and this is why I added it to the list. He's not happy. He's not happy about it, folks.
I'm not happy about your answer. Okay. Let's differentiate here. This is a solid all-in-one type of CRM, but it's a specialty CRM. Like if we were talking about Lifter LMS or LearnDash as a way to organize lessons and courses and e-learning. That is what it is doing here. The big problem is when somebody doesn't know better and they say, I want to buy that meal in a box, and I'm at the grocery store when there's actually the real ingredients they could buy to have the flexibility to make any meal they want and that works in the rest of the world in connectivity. Are we doing them a disservice by pandering to the client and saying, well, yeah, sure, that one thing will do it all, but really you want to buy the ingredients that do anything and will connect to the rest? And that's where this thing to me falls off the shelf, because the thing that it does can be done brilliantly with any number of other CRMs and the WordPress space. And you can do it now, especially, I hate to say, because we're not talking about that, like with Gutenberg and custom post types and relational things that we can do. You can set this up, not that much extra work. But I do agree with you that when you're a school administrator and it's ready to go and it's 10,000, but there's nothing but good things about that. But remember my metaphor from years ago, like you could buy a tricycle today if you're a kid who wants to ride a bike. Or you can buy a 10-speed with training wheels, spend a little more time, and then as you grow, you can ride that 10-speed off to the Tour de France. You're going to look pretty silly on the training wheels, whatever. So when we look at this WP ERP and what it connects to through WP Fusion, nothing. It's an island in and of itself. And that's where the problem is for me, because like by pandering to a customer saying they want to use this when they could be given a real like 10-speed bike with maybe a little training wheels today, they're making themselves a problem that's going to rear its head in many cases. Not everyone, but many. That's it.
Yeah. Right, on to the next one, which I'd be interested in your. It's up and coming. It's had a renaming to some extent.
Chocolate factory warning. Chocolate factory warning.
Well, that's but it doesn't affect its functionality and what you can do to some extent, does it? They seem to be up and coming, and they're doing good stuff, I think. But I'll be interested in your material insight. So we're talking about funnel kits. So where do you think funnel?
We're talking about autonomy, really, is what it is.
Well, they want to call it funnel kits.
No, but but let's clarify. Funnel kit is a bundle. There's a sales funnel builder, and then there was another thing which is a custom CRM that they were calling autonomy. And it's important to distinguish; they're not the same thing. One is what connects to selling products in a funnel and lets you map that stuff. Another is the CRM that keeps track of the customers' users. That's not the same thing. And it's important for people to understand. It's like a wheel is not the same as a tire. They look like they're, but there's two parts. Okay.
Yeah, it's all very confusing, isn't it, Spencer?
It's not, but you have to be very careful, because I know you're trying to be general about it. But like if you were a person who damaged their wheel, that's different than damaging your tire. If you said to a mechanic, I have a hole in my tire, that's different than I ran into a curb and bent my wheel. There are different things. Funnel kit has a custom CRM, and the autonomy part, I jumped on you, but like the autonomy part where I have issue with this is the same. You're not
hurting my feelings, actually. But what do you reckon? What do you reckon? What it does? Where do you think they are? Do you think it's could it be a good solution? Basically,
yes, it could be a good solution. Here's where it's a good solution. It's a good solution if your number one primary thing you're doing are you have like a simple membership site or some other thing where you just want to have an all-in-one visual builder in the sales funnel realm that connects to tracking the users and buyers, customers' performance in that. That is different than if you had multiple things you wanted to do. So for example, this particular autonomy funnel kit, whatever you want to refer to the package, will connect through WP Fusion to other things. It's nice. It has that connectivity and it does a reasonable job. It doesn't have all of the things I would want it to have. Like, for example, it doesn't have dynamic tagging, but it does have, for example, I'm looking at our chart. It does have now, well, that's it. It has enhanced e-commerce and webhooks. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. But just with the same intent, be careful about whether or not that's exactly the solution you want. Why? Because they've packaged those features into their own framework to a certain extent. When I'm taking off the CRM...
Oh, that's where you're coming from. You got concerns that they're trying to build a framework a bit like...
No, I'm not saying they're trying to. That's what it is. I need to go back to the metaphor of, we've talked on this show a dozen or more times. I just mentioned it a moment ago with like Access Ally. Access Ally is a framework. It's trying to put all these things together as an all-in-one box solution that just calls itself a plugin. To a certain extent, when you're doing sales funnels and selling products with WooCommerce, whatever, okay, FunnelKit does that, and now it's got its own CRM. But I don't think anybody should consider those other than a matching pair. Now, what happens if FunnelKit doesn't do exactly what you need, or you wanted to do something interesting? I mean, I write launch flows for that purpose. Now you're sort of like, oh, gosh darn it. I have to like break open the box that was pre-made for these things and see if I can jerry-rig something into there. Whereas if you started with this, hey, everything should do one feature. Now you don't have to fight because those features aren't in a box. That's what my point is.
So I think one of its strengths also is, like some of the other ones we're going to quickly discuss, is it's got a kind of modern UX kind of taste of Active Campaign in how the automatizations can be built.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying.
No, I know what you were.
Because I think we're making a disservice if we don't clarify it. What I'm saying is, we're talking about CRMs today, and in many other shows, I've said repeatedly, I don't favor products that put together multiple features all in one, because when they do that, it seems really sexy and easy, like a tricycle. You can ride it today, but ultimately the customer pays the price because there's 1 out of 10 things it doesn't do, and now it's impossibly hard to get past that. You've built yourself a choice of what's in this box, whereas everything should be a standalone Lego block, whether they come in a kit or not. They should be standalone.
I did understand the point you were trying to make.
But you started saying it is a different thing, and I didn't hear you saying what.
No, I was talking about the interface design, the UX design, and it's got this, utilizes this way of building automatizations that's very similar to Active Campaign, which a lot of people like. We got a live person with a jet. He's asking about Fluent CRM. We are going to discuss that as we go through the list. So don't worry.
I'll address it. He's got a good question. But we'll talk about that.
So we will answer it during the show. But the point I was making, Spencer, is it's got this UX design where it's got this visual automation builder, which a lot of people like, which is, I don't think Groundhog has actually, which I don't market against it, because in some ways I like the alternative, but that's a taste thing, really, usability question. So just to finish off, because I do think whatever they're calling themselves, so let's stick funnel kits, I think it does seem to be getting traction, and it does seem popular. So where do you think they're doing things right, and where do you think I think their major thing that you think they're not doing right is this framework question, which you've laid out. But where do you think they're doing things right, actually?
Okay, there's 3 or 4 competitors of theirs, including I won't say the names, but like Cardflows is one of them. There was another one. I get mixed up. It was called WP Funnels, I believe, still. But those are all following the same framework model to a certain extent, with 1 or 2 components. There is a marketplace for that. There absolutely is. But, today it's always yes, but somebody who is conscientiously shopping for something, I'm using this metaphor of like buying a tricycle versus a bike with accessories. Buying a box of food ready to eat is one meal versus buying the commodity items and a knife. Okay, I'm saying that you need to think, when you're doing this for yourself, for your customers, building a membership site, where will this customer ever want to go? Is it more than that one meal? Is it more than riding around in the mom and dad's backyard with the tricycle? Because those all-in-one solutions will have a limit very soon. That doesn't take away from the value proposition, but especially when you're talking about the CRM, my goodness, that's different than the sales funnel. Sales funnel, you can just change. When you build all of your data about your customers into something that's boxed in with a specific sales funnel plugin, you're not going to be able to use that in the same way in the future.
So to summarize what I think you're trying to point out is that I think this is really important. is that it's and I understand when people aren't part of the WordPress community as deeply as we are, they are not aware of this important point that you've just made.
Very complicated.
Is that there's a place, there's a suite. It's got the Goldilocks space where you've got enough functionality so it does the job you're looking for, but they're not trying to push it so far so it becomes an all-embracing framework Swiss Army knife, which entraps you, which can restrict you. But there is a Goldilocks place in WordPress where you've got enough functionality, but you're not becoming this all-embracing framework. Is that a good way of putting it?
That's a reasonable way of putting it. I'm saying choose whether you want the immediate quick win of a bundle of things that are locked into each other, or would you rather take the long view of buying feature type plugins and connective services that you can swap in and out as your needs change and as you grow? And if you do modular, look at the iPhones today. I mean, I have the latest iPhone. Apple went through this thing that's not resolved yet about like soldering everything down to the board and serializing the parts, so you can't just like swap in and out like you used to. That's a big difference for people. If you build a business and all of your customers are locked into a proprietary plugin like an Access Ally, but even Access Ally connects at least to an external CRM like, you know, Infusionsoft or whatever. But if you've locked your customer data into proprietary CRM that was part of a sales funnel bundle, that is not a good idea, in my opinion, if you have a choice of doing something else. Now, if you don't care or you're just spinning off a side hustle one time, then it doesn't matter, does it?
No. So on to a great product, but I've got something that I'll be interested to see what your response to. So on to the next one, WP Fusion. Now, WP Fusion, the founder, Jack, great product. I have problems explaining to customers what the hell it is. I wish in some ways that the founder had decided to build a real CRM, because it's really hard to explain. It is this linkage to external CRMs. It adds a lot of powerful functionality. It's a great solution, but trying to explain to people what it really is, and the decision not to build out a kind of CRM solution. I wouldn't say utilizing the word mistake would be wrong, because it's a highly successful product. The founder's highly successful. You're part of the team. But can you see where I'm coming from when we're discussing WP Fusion, or do you think I'm just spent 2 minutes waffling?
I mean, in terms of WP Fusion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate solution is so simple, and I'm even actually typing here to one of the good questions of one of our listeners, is that the simple stack is just 5 things. I mean, and you don't have to say it's the only solution, but I'll leave the CRM out of it. It's, let's say, WordPress with, let's say, a transactional engine like WooCommerce subscriptions. I like to say, if you use that, you can use sales funnels with launch flows, but you can also use these other sales funnel products. Then WP Fusion acts as a connector for either an internal CRM like Fluent or something, or an external one like any of the other 55. If you go that direction, any plugin or service you use inside of WordPress and any outside service can be part of a stack where each thing stays in its lane, and not one of them is trying to bundle multiple features by itself where it becomes the pain in the butt. You know, like a baseball team, if I don't know your baseball metaphor, but like if the pitcher tried to play first base, second base, third base.
I'm English. It means nothing to me.
In a sporting team, like a hockey team, there's 5 players and a goalie. If one player tried to play the center, right wing, left wing defense, it would be annoying and it wouldn't work. There needs to be a separate player in each position. And that is what I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah. But do you know, and this is all great. It's just, I feel, and I'm sure there's been discussions, you've had discussions with Jack. I'm sure do you think them not offering a interface, their own kind of marketing automation interface where you can build queries and that?
With WP Fusion?
Yes.
No, that will not happen, because for the same very reason. WP Fusion, I have toys here, but like WP, I thought I had. WP Fusion is like the USB connector between the plugins and the CRM. It will never take on an interface, because that would violate the exact thing I'm talking about, which is its job. Its thing is to connect stuff. There is always a need for another CRM, but it could be an internal CRM, like a plugin one, or it could be a SaaS one. But the CRM's job is to track contacts with their tags or fields, do automations, and in some cases, the automated emails. That's its job. WP Fusion connects it all.
Right, on to a totally other side, something I've never heard of, but it's Propo Voice. It's a WordPress solution that I hadn't come up, but when I did my research, it did come up on my research. Yeah, well, you say that, but it's similar to...
No, I'm annoyed by the name here. Because
I know.
As a marketer, these names where the people don't actually try to see it, say it, spell it, make me crazy. Propovoice, Propovoice, Propovoice. What the hell is it? This is such a bad name.
I know. Well,
did anybody try this on before they left?
Well, for dyslexic it is. But the main problem, it's linked to... It seems to be aimed at invoicing. It, to me, I have never used it, and I don't want to be highly critical. I'm sure it does what it's supposed to do, but if you're buying this for what you should be buying a CRM for, I think you're going to be greatly disappointed, and I wouldn't utilize the functionality which they're highlighting. I would look at some other solution. I just don't think this is a great idea, really. What do you reckon?
Well, okay, objectively, it doesn't connect through WP Fusion, which automatically takes it off my conversational list. Second of all, I do agree with the kind of what you're trying to estimate what it does. This is like for a company that's saying, well, we haven't thought of a more clever way to do things, and so we'll use this for lead management and deal pipeline invoice. It's like if you were a designer and I have a bunch of design clients and I like to invoice them. There was a thing that used to be called CurdBee back in the day, in the early days of WordPress, which I loved because it allowed me to solve a problem back then that was hard, but today is trivial, which was, how do I send a pretty invoice and somebody clicks it and pays me money immediately? That was hard before. CurdBee did it. I don't understand this product's positioning in terms of what we're talking about today, because it doesn't really integrate or connect deeply in the way that it needs to with the other stuff. And their FAQs, unfortunately, are broken, so they don't expand. There's a question, does it require WordPress? Let me see if I can look in my inspector and read underneath what is hidden. I have to literally go inside of there. And it says, yes, I'm literally using... You will need to have an active install of WordPress in order to use it. So I guess it works with WordPress as a plugin, but I don't have any wonderful.
But it comes up. Right. So on to the next one. I know.
By the way, can I add one thing? Sorry to interrupt you, but like before we leave, I want people to understand something. Like we're in 2023. I'm talking to people about WordPress re-envisioned as a service. Imagine WordPress if back in 2006, somebody other than Matt had taken it in a direction where it became a unified SaaS service, and all of the features you needed were created by whomever, but were offered like Wix or Weebly or Squarespace or Shopify. And in that world, there wouldn't be 27 different versions of the CRM stuff, right? It would be one good version of the feature. And that is unfortunately requiring me in that Emperor's New Clothes story to be very prescriptive to people, saying, yes, it's true you can choose from 90 different things, but really I'm saying there's one or two things that would be a better choice.
Yeah,
so Debbie Downer.
We're not trying to be nasty to anybody, but we're just trying to be honest here. That's
because we're saying in this show, I think we've discussed this privately, where we could be just sort of pretending to be objective and like, sure, use this, use that. We don't do affiliate marketing. We're not getting G2 reviews. We're not getting any benefit from pretending. I like to put everything in the same conversation as if you were paying me $300 an hour, which is what I charge to help your company. And I would tell you for the A, B, C, D, E, F, and G things you want to do, here's the stack. It's the same stack as everybody else uses. And if you have a case like you mentioned, well, we just want to build one thing quick and we're cool. Okay, maybe then you would use that like all-in-one box thing, but do it with full knowledge.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even do that because that's where I would utilize. I would use WP Fusion, an external SaaS solution for that. But that's my position. So let's go on to another one, which I know nothing about, but it came up on my searches on the lists, on the chocolate factory lists.
Is this a chocolate factory company?
No, but it comes up on their, endless SEO website. If you do any search on this particular subject, it's 6 of the websites that come up are owned by the chocolate factory, right? And it's all the same advice.
I think this is free, isn't it? Is it paid? Oh wait, let's see.
I don't know. They haven't come up with
No, it's paid. It's
paid. It's WP CRM. It's another quasar. It's not doing what you think a CRM. Well, its focus is more about organization management rather than marketing automation.
Yeah,
I think it causes a load of confusion to the new person that's going to the chocolate factory lists of the 8 best CRMs.
Alberto is one of our listeners, and I know him from online as well, and he's got some thoughtful comments here. First of all, about like, I understand where we can fit these two, Propo Voice and WP CRM. He has reminded us, or he has some experience, that it's a proposal. It's a proposal system. That puts it in line with what I was alluding to. You're a designer who does websites, and all you need is to keep track of proposals and get paid. When I referred to Curdby, that's what Curdby did. As you said, there are legacy email systems. Go back, it could be even MailChimp in its early days, but like what was the big one? It was called with a C, Constant Contact, right? Like from the dinosaur days when
it's a highly profitable public company, and why anybody uses it, I have no idea.
Let me explain. AOL made $500 million last year for AOL emails. There's dinosaurs on the planet Earth. So Constant Contact was something that when I did a lot of work with yoga studios, they're all using Constant Contact. And I saw, why? Is because they're all using Mind Body Online. And I go, why? And I asked them, it's because they don't know what the hell it does or why they need it. But the Mind Body Online people said, well, we work with Constant Contact, so just pick Constant Contact. But none of them knew what they were using it for or why they had a list and whatever. So I'm going to put these last two into a category called dinosaur proposals and emails to get paid for people who could care less, because they're never going to talk to these people again about tracking their behavior, their journey, and so forth. Why is that different? A design client, once you do some design work, either goes away or they call you up next time they need stuff and they go, Spence, I got to talk to you about this. That's it. A membership student,
it's a totally different.
Got 800 million things. So these are not the same things, even though the word CRM is attached.
Thanks for that, Spence. But they come up on all the lists, and this is the problem. This is why
these are like bookkeeping. Like you were trying to say bookkeeping. Yeah. I think what you could have said, which proposal and getting paid systems. That's where.
Well, I was looking at it. These are aimed at but they're on all the lists, Spencer. So this is why people get totally confused. Give up on WordPress and go off somewhere else because
let's bring it back together, though. Hold on. Let's bring it back together.
Yeah, good.
Knowing what we know now from discussing in this show, I'd still stick to my recommendation, which is whether you just are a freelancer that makes pretty websites or you do logos, you'd still be better using the modern stack because it costs the same or less and it's universally able to grow. You could build a high rise on that foundation. If you choose one of these little esoteric Propo this or WP CRM that or whatever, you're building yourself like a box with that tricycle, because you're not going to be able to grow or expand on it in the same way. And you're going to be very frustrated that Uncle Spence didn't like yell at you and say, wait a second, get the 10-speed bike and put the training wheels on. I promise you won't regret it.
Right, on to the last one, and I think is the clear leader. It's the, I'm going to put my flag in. Great team. They're still pushing it, innovative but solid. To me, if you're looking for marketing, but my position is slightly different to Spencer, where I would, if I was looking at the organisation, the kind of sales orientated, I would look for external solution. But for the marketing automation, for part of it, I think it's the clear leader. It's Fluent CRM, 100% far as I'm concerned. It's the clear leader. And they're not paying me to say that either. It's what we recommend. It's what's part of our stack that we provide as our hosting. To me, it's, like I say, it's the bee's knees. It's the clear market leader. What's your thoughts, Spencer?
Okay. So yes. But no buts on what you said. But yes, in addition to, I will add, that conversation I had with Adrian about what Groundhog could be was at a time when zero BS. I'm going to explain. There's a great question, by the way, about what's the chocolate factory reference. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But like at the time when I spoke to Adrian about what Groundhog might be or what he wanted it to be, that was when Fluent CRM was coming around. So we had zero BS, cracked open the door, got swallowed up. There was a hole in the backyard that Automatic buried it into, and we never heard from it again. It literally disappeared. So now there was two players in the market, and I think it's very healthy what happened. Adrian made it clear to me, and that's why I said, okay, I won't be talking about you anymore. He's going off to do a framework, and Shah Jahan Jewel and his team said, I want to be on your team. Tell me what to do, in your opinion, for the things that we need to do to make this up. And it's continued in that way. And now we are seeing all their plugins and all their things exploding because they're staying in their lane with each plugin.
Because they're in the Goldilocks area. Like I tried to...
They're not boxing things together. Like, for example, you have Fluent Forms Pro. You have Fluent CRM's Pro. Any one of those can be used independently for that feature. And they have a payment thing, right? They have instant payments for, okay. He listens because I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm speaking on behalf of the other people who've been here for 17 years, like myself. Too much of a flea market has caused the problems where we're at today. And we still have conversations in our other show, the Roundtable show, about how awesome Gutenberg is. But why are there 17 companies competing by building the same blocks that, fight with each other? So by doing this method of taking a few key plugins, and Fluent CRM is the number one plugin I use in any situation where the customer does not need the special features of a SaaS CRM or doesn't already have a relationship. For example, as I started the show in a little, rebuttal to you, 50% of my consulting business comes from Salesforce, Infusionsoft, and HubSpot.
Well, I didn't treat it as a rebuttal. It's just that your clientele, so your discussions, you're going to be influenced by your discussions on a weekly, daily basis. So that's why you came back to me. My discussions are slightly different because they've got a slightly different clientele. So it's totally understandable.
Okay, but we can weave those together because here's what happens. There's a decision tree in my conversations with people. I ask them, for example, do you currently use a CRM? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then the next question is, do you have social networking as a primary interest or concern, like BuddyBoss? Because that has a whole thing we've talked about in another show. Then if they don't have a current CRM and they're not on BuddyBoss, then they are open to the same stack. I go, okay, here's why with a membership site with marketing automation, blah, 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 we're going to have a scenario where Fluent is my recommendation and why. If they said, yes, we have a CRM, I say, how is it working for you? What do you do? Are you in one of those where your whole business is running on the back end? And by the way, there's only one company that's true for, is Salesforce is the only one that runs back end enterprise. HubSpot, however, an incredibly expensive multi-billion-dollar company who convinces people who don't know better to pay them tens of thousands of dollars a month for stuff they could, would, should do in WordPress. So a lot of the HubSpot people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you saved me from myself.
I don't know. I just don't know how they do it, but
they do it because people don't know, and then they hear this. So Salesforce, those are for enterprises, so they get a pass. I do see a lot of customers like, look, I got a WordPress thing, I got Salesforce, I got 25 people working on this, I need your help. Infusionsoft, HubSpot are usually entrepreneurs, small businesses, who many of them do take the path of like, once they hear the truth, they go, I would like to try Fluent CRM. If they don't, then they connect otherwise. Now, somebody from scratch who comes in like, what's the best way to go? I say, here's a box ready to go. Push a button. It has everything in it, including Fluent. And if you want, you can always move to another CRM. But why start by connecting to an outside thing if you don't have to? And that works. So this gets rave reviews from me. And the bottom line is that when we talk about what's happening this year, you will see, including I just launched some new things, but like, you will see this in the wild of imagine what it'd be like if you're a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a small company who you got you mean there's a product that's WordPress inside, but I don't even care because it just has all the features pre-chosen, because not a single client ever has said to me, gee, Spence, I wish there was more choices to confuse me.
Right.
They always say the opposite.
So we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. We're going to keep going because we've got some questions and we've got some people that have joined us live. No, we're going to answer all that. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. But like I say, we're going to keep on and answer these questions, especially what the chocolate factory is and everything else. So, and that's a reason why you want to join us live on this show, because if you've got any questions, we will answer them afterwards, so you're not left out waiting. So, Spencer, what's the best way for people to find out more about you, your services, and your company?
I have a hub at SpencerForman, FORMAN.com, but WP Launchify is where I take most of my free calls at. Come have a free call with me about all these same topics. I have several products that are launching now that are free or inexpensive to get freelancers from either offshore or from domestic situations that are moving into entrepreneurship into a solution that helps them have their best profile and starts earning money with WordPress, because I cannot be more excited for how this current evolution and disruption is making the opportunities to help, exactly as we've talked, learn just a little, get a pre-made stack of stuff, and go service a client who's just one step behind you, but wants to talk to a human being like you instead of an automated bot. That is the way that we did it 17 years ago, and it's back, baby, because the automation now is distinguished between human and human interaction versus human and like, oh my God, look at all these choices. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, so I think it's been a great discussion. I think if you're looking to build your membership website, definitely WordPress should be on the top of your list. I think it's been a great discussion, Spencer. You won't hear this anywhere else. I know it's multifaceted, but we've done a dive, and I think we've given some excellent value in this show. We will be back next week. Like I say, we are still going to go on. We're going to load of questions to answer. So you want to join us live and put any membership or WordPress questions to us, and we will answer it after the show. We will be back next week. See you soon, folks. Bye. So on to answering some of the questions. First of all, would you like to explain what we mean by the chocolate factory, Spencer?
Right. I love the fact, by the way, today we had a lively audience. A lot of times people will pick this up afterwards, but thank you for all the great questions and the kind words. Okay, so here's the deal. I have positioned myself over my 40-something years of entrepreneurship of being a guy who, like my grandfather told me, your name and reputation is the only thing you come into this world with that's sparkling clean, and your only responsibility above everything else is to keep it that way or make it even shinier. And so throughout all of my professional and private endeavors, I've always lived by the rule of don't ever say or do anything that you will regret or that people will say you're being duplicitous. Well, The WordPress ecosystem, I've learned after 17 years and being in my own ways the grandfather here. Maybe Bob Dunn is older, but like other than Bob Dunn, I think I've outlived everybody, you and I together, literally.
Well, I'm very envious because they're living in Porto now.
Him and his wife are lovely, and I've enjoyed their company. But like Bob would never say the things I say.
I was looking to move to Porto, but unfortunately, I'm a dual citizenship. My home country decided to leave the common market for some bizarre reason.
I know you're fine in Reno and you ski. The point is, there are people in WordPress who I feel like are a different personality and lovely people and would never say a bad word or thing if it offended anybody. I am not suffering from that because the highest value that I hold is honesty and truthfulness to the consuming public and to those I give advice to. And so this has served me well. So here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that whether it's with Automatic doing or a company Awesome Motive, who Syed is well known as a multimillionaire founder, a brilliant human being. They have said to do one thing and done another thing. They have made a public persona that claims to be squeaky clean and in favor of this and that, and done exactly the opposite black hat tactics, whether it's the way they sell their software, the way they do black hat competitive things against the very same people who have entrusted them to act with a fiduciary duty, including Automatic through WordPress.org, or Matt Mullenweg himself, or the automaticians taking orders. And I've seen this in public. I've seen this online. We saw it even in San Diego with the nonsense that would go on with, like, you know, the automaticians claiming they're going to blackball all of the people that went to a private party because it started after. This is BS. And so what we've decided, because you've been threatened with litigation, and I say, bring it on because I'm an attorney, I've never said anything, is I am not ever going to make, and I never would, an ad hominem attack. I'm never going to say anything about Syed as a human being because he looks like he's an amazing father, a loving husband, a good friend to lots of people.
He's easily upset. It's more easier to upset than me.
Let me finish this thought, because this has no attack on him as a person or as a human being. Okay. None at all. This has to do with how his company, Awesome Motive, behaves in the marketplace and the factually true behavior that is well documented by myself and hundreds of or thousands of others who care. Most customers don't care. But when you're listening to this and you think, like, how did WordPress get where it is? And why is this one company sticking out like forever? It's because a smart entrepreneur who decided that his public persona and the private company actions don't line up is doing things. Then there's a person like me who's been here forever. And I said, listen, you know what I think a neighborhood is? You know what I think a public park is? You know what I think WordPress should be? Not what you're doing. And similarly with Automatic, I understand Matt Mullenweg as a human being is probably a fantastic guy, but Automatic as a company is acting with complete indifference to the rules that apply to everybody else, including.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that they're not, I think just to recap it and then go on to.
Wait, where's the chocolate factory? So the chocolate factory is the code word for Willy Wonka is Syed, and the chocolate factory is Awesome Motive, because that way Jonathan, who does worry about getting sued, doesn't have to get any more legal threats. I'm still waiting for my subpoena because I would relish the chance to discuss this.
I've got better things to do with my time. So it's English sarcasm. I call it the chocolate factory, Willy Wonka, the chocolate factory, because they've got the public persona, but underneath it's a little bit darker. So that's how my English mind works. I could probably get myself into trouble. So are there any other questions? I think there was some questions about Fluent CRM, some specific questions.
Let's talk about, for example, there were custom contact fields. I want to explain something that happens. So when you connect a CRM, this is odd, but it's really true. You're faced with this amazing situation where for the first time, you don't have to go log into a separate website to see your CRM management. So you've got a user in WordPress, and I'm using these tags, and you've got a contact in the CRM. But for the first time, Fluent CRM puts them in the same dashboard, and it can be very disconcerting to people. Like, wait a second, like, why am I not seeing one for one all the fields from the user being mapped automatically to the contact? They can be, but you just have to set it up that way. So Fluent is trying to not be prescriptive of what you're going to do with it. Just like when you go to ActiveCampaign or Salesforce, it's not set up for you. You have to set it up. You have to map the fields. You just have to set it up to do that.
Yeah, I've got a question. You mentioned it during the discussion, like with Fluent. Fluent, you can list tags, and then there's dynamic data. Is it called dynamic?
Well, dynamic tagging allows you.
Can you explain? Can you explain what that is actually?
Right. So let's use the metaphor of there's a WordPress user who does something, clicks something, buys something, enrolls in something. We can use a metaphor called tags, which are mostly what CRMs call them, but in Salesforce they call them topics, to put on the chest of the user, like Spence did this, bought this. These are binary, yes or no, he did it or what. Like in a hotel, you got buffet, you got the health club. And then it synchronizes over, if you're using WP Fusion, to your CRM, so that you have available to you the contact of Spence. You know he did this or whatever. Now, when you set this up in many sales CRMs, including Salesforce, you have to predefine the list of topics that you're going to have available to choose from. But with Fluent, you can actually just go where you want to do something and start typing the name of a new tag, and it generates the tag at the same time it sets the tag up. Like when I'm selling a product, when you buy this product, give you a tag called purchase this product. You don't have to predefine it. It's dynamically created. Saves a lot of time.
All right. So how would you make the decision to use a list use tag or the dynamic tags? Is there any? Can you give any guidance? Give any examples of where it's best to use both? All three?
So two instances, and then I want to answer Jet's good question about a user versus a CRM contact when you want them to be separate. So here's a use case. Let's say you've got a WooCommerce shop that has hundreds of little items for sale, right? Like you're just selling MP3 files or something. Who knows? It would be a drag to have to sit there and make a unique tag, even if you typed it out, for every single one, right? Like maybe there's one product with 900 variations. It's usually when the volume of the tags are so great that wouldn't it be cool to just generate a tag that has like a prefix and a suffix and an intermediary thing. So like the prefix is WooCommerce product, and then it's the name of the product. Ta-da, that's the tag. So that any product that you've got automatically has a tag generated. And because these are kind of one-time use, there's also something called event data versus tagging data. Sometimes you really only need the information about what somebody bought or did or clicked one time, right? Like it'll never be used again. Maybe you do events that are like once a week and then they go away forever. So instead of generating a once a week, 52 times a year static tag, you can use events. So with WP Fusion and the stack I talked about, you can have like a foo events or WP Event Manager. Somebody buys a ticket for a calendar of events. And then that makes, instead of a tag, it makes an event show up in the contact of the CRM. So you can segment, please search the database for contacts who had that event. There won't be a permanent tag, but there will be like an event that all the people who signed up in WordPress will have on their contact. And see, this is your light bulbs are going on. By thinking of the CRM as a separate place to a single source of truth, a single source of truth for any relationship things that happened, you start to think in terms of search through all the people I know in my iPhone that went to that, dinner with me, or search for all the people from Chicago. Instead of thinking like, well, let me look through my learning management or my orders, you're thinking like, go through the list of all the people that did something that's similar from those that I know. Okay. And Jet has a good question. What do you do when it's not a user, but a random visitor? So the difference between when I make somebody a WordPress user versus a contact, in some CRMs, I'm not sure introduction. Okay. I think he's asked the same question. In some CRMs that are external, in most email programs, you don't log somebody in as a WordPress user. But I want to first say the magic, the absolute magic of a box in WordPress owned and controlled that's connected to a CRM is that 99% of the time it costs you nothing, but you get all of the benefits when you make everybody registered and logged in immediately. And here's why. Most of the time when you meet somebody who's coming from a cold list, they're called a cold lead. You have no idea whether you're ever going to have any conversation with them again, right? Maybe you went to a webinar, you found them on Twitter, Facebook, you met them on the street corner. And what you're saying is, hey, Jonathan, you're interesting. If you give me your email, I don't
think that would ever come across your lips, would it?
I already know better. Hey, Jonathan, you're interesting. I would like to show you something that if you give me your email, I think you'll find worth it. Typically, that's called a lead magnet. Now, that's the one instance where not bothering to register and log somebody in is worth it. And so all the CRMs we talked about, at least Fluent and the SaaS hosted ones, allow you to use a form or other submission to add somebody as a contact without them actually being registered and logged in as a user in WordPress. And that's useful because you can then follow up by giving them something of low value, low cost that's still useful, and then giving them a choice. Now that I've given you this free PDF, click the link to get the next thing, which may still be free. But when they do that, now they're a warm prospect. And now you want to make them into a user because A, it costs you nothing in WordPress, and B, it's possible, for example, to run them through an automated sequence to figure out, are we going to go to coffee? Are we going to have lunch? Are we going to go to dinner, meet the folks, get married, have children? Those things can happen. Now you're tracking them with a CRM versus an email list where it's like, good luck figuring out what happens from there.
Yeah. And just to wrap it up, folks, I think I caused a little bit confusion in the beginning and first half because it's just occurred to me what would be what would have been a better way for me to explain things is that you got marketing CRMs and then you got what I call the digital consciousness of the company, that the area where all the information about the company, the members, the membership website, the business, what's going on with the internal team, what's going on with specific clientele, what's going on with certain marketing campaigns, that's all in a kind of corporate managerial CRM. That's a totally different animal to what I see Active Campaign is, or some of the other SaaS, or some of the WordPress solutions we have talked. They are marketing automation systems, in my mind, where this global digital company consciousness, now a product like Norton is utilized for that, for internal notes, or there's other platforms like I've just gone blank, Basecamp or something like Basecamp, something like
right. Basecamp is a CRM, yeah. But here's
they're totally different animals to what we were trying to discuss.
Remember, hold on, let's clarify because that's a great question. Whether it's Salesforce or Norton, or whether it's like Lotus 123, or whether it's like Basecamp, right? Those are systems that are designed for, you have a business with an internal team that is doing, remember I use this thing, high ticket selling or management of customers and processes that are beside the point of doing market automation in WordPress. So what I'm suggesting is those worlds can live together. And a lot of times there's a daisy chain that happens. And Jim has a couple good questions here too. So what happens is, let's say you have your primary benefit of WordPress with a membership site to courses or whatever. You set it up with the appropriate CRM connected to WordPress, whether it's directly like Fluent or through WP Fusion, for the marketing automation and for the customer management. Now, let's say that one or more of your products is high ticket. What we can do is pass that referral from that system to your Pipe Drive or your Norton or
That's
your
what
Basecamp.
that was the point I was trying to make.
And now it's like, hey, it's Spence from the Boiler Room, and I think you wanted me to call you back. And that can actually be a referral system that works for outside partners or whatever. Jim has a related question. Jim is a very smart fella I met. He's really into the same digital and photography. I love his audio. So we've been brainstorming stuff. So one of his things is, how do I take people from a Facebook community or let's say an outside community and get them into their WordPress community, let's say with Buddy Boss and maybe using WP Fusion. Here's the thing. Remember, I just said a second ago that after a cold lead, once you've hit warm prospect, put them into your site. There's 5 ways I can name right now of adding somebody automatically registered and logged into a WordPress site, along with tags that differentiate where they came from and what they're doing in the field data. So for example, let's say you got a Facebook community. You do a free image that says, get my new blankety blank, my free lead magnet course, or get my this, or we're having an event. Click here. And either that takes them to a form, like a Fluent form, a Gravity form, whatever, that allows automatically the person not only to submit their data, but registered and logged in. 2, you can do that with WooCommerce. You can do that with Launch Flows. You can do that with any number of other products like LearnDash-Lifter LMS. You can make a free course that allows them to register and log in. But the point is, now you've got this metaphor of tagging. Just send them to a WordPress entry point, either for free or buying something that they get registered and logged in. Because here's the last part. Some of you may live outside the United States and you're freaked out by GDPR. Well, you don't have to be, because inside of this system is the ability to churn the people and their data as soon as they're no longer in a legal relationship with you. As an attorney, I can say the GDPR has not been used against anybody when their customer is currently doing something with them. But if the customer wants the privacy, these all have the ability to know Spence hasn't done anything in 6 days. Kick him off of the system. No problem. But that's how we take somebody from the outside and we pour them in. And that's really a big deal with Facebook, because I run a community of trek flyers that has 8,000 people in it. And I only wish I had that stuff where they were just in a CRM. Unfortunately, a lot of these folks at this point are casual observers. But if you have clients, absolutely. Tina brings up a good point. Make them an offer you can't refuse. Of course. Pour on the value, because once you get them in your system, I'm quoting Russell Brunson, you own them. As soon as they're on your list, you own them. And it's psychologically true. I've proven this myself. I have over 40,000 people over 17 years.
You started to sound
I do not hold on. I do not do the duplicitous thing. But you know what happens? Like Tina is a great example. I bumped into her on her show. Like Tina knew me like you knew me back from the 1WD Evil Genius days. Once you build a relationship and you have a good relationship with people, you have a way to reach out to them now. I don't have to hopefully find them on Facebook. I'd be like, hey, Bob, Susie, Tina, John, here's something. It's just
the ownership video is starting to sound like the chocolate factory there. I think it's been a great
trust. It's over, isn't it? Once you've been burned at the chocolate factory, you're not going back, are you?
No. I think it's been a great discussion, Spencer. Those that have joined us after the podcast, thanks for your questions. Please join us next week. Love the discussions afterwards. I think it's been a great show. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.